Hello there, I am Lady Loy on the Roller Coaster Show on Gold Standard Radio. I operate every Saturday, 7 till 9. www.gold-standard-radio.com if you're interested in different kinds of reggae music. But today I wanted to talk about who owns our past, and it was triggered by a headline I saw today from the Telegraph. And the headline said, "This is the way to deal with racially divisive, decolonising attempts to rewrite history." And I thought, what the hell is that about? So I did a little, searching around and a little research, and I came up with my thoughts and my feelings that I intend to share with you now. So, how long have I got? Got 10 minutes, so I've eaten out 50 seconds of it, so let's go. So I want to talk to you today about Telegraph's headline, "This is the way to deal with racially divisive, decolonising attempts to rewrite history." And this is referring to how strident nationalisms were built on lies about the past and how the British Museum must stay true to its calling. That's the underlying meaning, which has sparked more heat than light, and what it really tells us about how we're struggling to talk about history in public life. The Telegraph this week argues that Britain's great cultural institutions, particularly the British Museum, should stand firm against what it calls racially divisive attempts to rewrite history. Strong language. But underneath the rhetoric is a real and unresolved question. How should we deal with the past when it makes us uncomfortable? Because this debate isn't really about statues or labels or museum displays or even artifacts taken centuries ago. It's about trust. It's about whether we believe our shared institutions are trying to inform us or persuade us. Let's slow this down and bring it back to basics. Museums were never meant to be places of moral instruction. They were built to collect, preserve and explain, not to prosecute the past and not to defend it either. Their authority comes from evidence, scholarship and context. Once the authority starts to feel political, people stop listening. And that's the danger the Telegraph is pointing at, even if it uses languages that many will bristle at. Right now, we're seeing pressure on museums to adopt a particular moral framework when presenting history, especially imperial history. The argument goes like this: Britain past caused harm. Therefore, institutions must actively correct the narrative, foreground injustice, and in some cases express institutional remorse. That impulse comes from a place many people understand. History can be painful. Empire involved exploitation. Slavery existed. These are the facts. No serious historian denies them. But here's the problem. When the conclusion is decided before the evidence is presented, history stops being history. It becomes advocacy. And advocacy, however well-intentioned, always simplifies. It flattens complexity. It turns centuries of human behaviour into a single moral storyline. Heroes and villains, victims and oppressors. That may feel satisfying, but it's not truthful. The British Museum sits at the centre of this storm because it holds objects from across the world. Some were traded, some were looted, some were acquired under conditions that would be unacceptable today. All of that deserves explanation. What it doesn't deserve is distortion. Because once museums start telling visitors what to think, rather than helping them to understand, they lose the very thing that makes them valuable. This isn't about denying the darker chapters of British history. It's about refusing to reduce the past to a single accusation or apology. History doesn't belong to the present. It doesn't exist to make us feel righteous or ashamed. It exists to be understood. There's another risk here that doesn't get enough attention. When national institutions adopt the language of modern political movements, they don't unite people, they fracture them. Some feel validated, others feel lectured or accused, and many simply disengage. That's how you end up with the Telegraph calls. what the Telegraph calls strident nationalism built on lies about the past. When people feel their history is being caricatured or condemned wholesale, they retreat into defensive myths. Nuance disappears on both sides. The irony is that the very attempt to challenge nationalism can end up fueling it. So what's the way forward? The obvious answer is almost the most boring and the most effective. Museums should double down on scholarship. More context, not less. More explanation, not slogans. Let visitors see the evidence, understand the circumstances, and draw their own conclusions. That means being honest about exploitation without presenting empire as a single criminal enterprise. It means acknowledging achievement without glorifying domination. It means treating the public like adults. There's also a quieter solution that matters just as much: humility. No generation has a monopoly on moral insight. We see the past through our own values, blind spots and anxieties. Future generations will judge us too, and they will find things wanting. If our institutions can model that humility by explaining rather than instructing, by contextualizing rather than condemning, they can become places of learning rather than battlegrounds. This is where the British Museum's calling, as the headline puts it, really lies. Not in defending Britain and not in prosecuting it, but in holding open a space where complexity is allowed to exist without being forced into a political frame. Because once history becomes a weapon, everyone loses. The past turns brittle. The present becomes angrier. And the future inherits a story stripped of the truth. The real task isn't to rewrite history. It's to read it properly, slowly, honestly, and with the confidence to let it remain complicated. That's not evasive. That's responsible. This commentary responds to a Telegraph editorial discussing the role of British Museum amid debates over decolonisation, historical interpretation and public trust in cultural institutions. And I wanted to leave it there because, there is only so much we can do. And yes, some people, they can ask the institutions to be responsible. It's a bit similar to asking those people now to be responsible for colonialism, but it is about speaking the truth. It is about uncovering history and not miseducating people about it. It's about being honest and open and acknowledging that the people of our past, not us, not the people today, not even the white people of today, did some terrible things. And we want to talk about that. We don't want to sweep it underneath the carpet. We want to openly acknowledge what they did, and so people can understand. But there's a sector of people who don't want to open that book. I don't know if they don't want to open that book because they will start feeling responsible and they start feeling accountable, and then they're going to think, oh God, we've got to pay this and we've got to do that and start doing this compensation and that. So they prefer to keep sweeping it under the carpet. But as long as the truth and history is swept under the carpet, it's going to keep resurrecting itself until it makes sense. Young people today, they're not idiots. They want to know the truth, and they're not going to condemn people for it. They just want to have an aha moment. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense why black people seem as though they've got a chip on their shoulder. Now it makes sense why there seems to be this superiority complex and nationalism and all of that. Now it makes sense. And that's all we ask, for things to make sense. And it can only make sense if people speak the truth and not stop hiding the books where the truth is in, and just be open about it. And that's all I've got to say for now. If you can, listen to me on Gold Standard Radio on Saturdays, 7 till 9. That's all for now. Bye-bye.